there's this person and he put up a video on YouTube and he's this guy walking through the DigiYatra touch points and he said, "Chappal aur gamche mein Maharaja ki samajh."
You're saying DigiYatra can be extended to even foreign nationals?
Absolutely.
You say that this is the UPI movement for travel, and this is DigiYatra can be the travel stack for India.
Yeah, so interestingly what happened is
Hi, welcome to another edition of In and Around Tech, your go-to podcast for understanding how technology is going to shape our lives. In this edition, we're going to discuss DigiYatra. Most of you would have experienced this while going through any of our Indian airports. Today I have with me Suresh Khadakbhavi, CEO of DigiYatra Foundation. Suresh has 35 years of experience and more than 17 years in aviation. And he was the head of Innovation Lab from 2016, where he championed DigiYatra. And he's been the lone voice for DigiYatra for the last 8 years and has overseen its implementation across almost 29 airports. Suresh, thanks for making it to Cryo or Do.
Thank you for having me here.
Great. I've personally known you for now 7 years,
Yeah.
and you've been championing DigiYatra since 2016, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Can you tell us the backstory a bit about, I remember you mentioning that it's during a workshop that the concept of DigiYatra was, initially thought out. Can you just walk us through that journey where initial idea was seeded?
Yeah, so just a couple of steps back, right, which is why there was a need for an airport like, say, Bangalore Airport to enhance its passenger experience, right? And there was this year-on-year growth in passenger traffic, phenomenal year-on-year growth of passenger traffic, growing at the rate of around 20 to 25% year-on-year. And this was something which they were trying to manage through building a new terminal, for example, adding more infrastructure. And that's when actually this thought process of, is this the right way to manage this phenomenal growth in passenger traffic? I think that was the thought process in the minds of the airports across India, actually speaking. And in one of the workshops for Terminal 2, which was the upcoming terminal for Bangalore International Airport, we had a 3-day workshop where people from multiple departments were called, and we were asked to sort of write a story about the passenger's journey at the new Terminal 2. And this is when I wrote a simple story of passenger going through all the checkpoints right from the airport entry gate to the boarding gate, and reaching there without anyone stopping him or her. And I called it as my face is my boarding pass at that time. And that was the concept that was put across, and we started to then see how it can be, how that dream can be made into a reality.
Just so that our audience understands, you were saying traffic was growing at a phenomenal pace, more than 20% year on year, and airports were saying that add more and more space in order to handle this traffic, but that might not be the optimal way.
So the brick and mortar way was to build a bigger terminal,
right,
or to build a new terminal, etc., etc. But where the actual existing terminal is being efficiently utilized or not,
right.
I think that was the question that our management put to us.
Okay.
And that's when the Innovation Lab got formed, and we began to sort of think about what technology intervention or what process changes could do to enhance passenger experience, to increase efficiencies, and maybe, if possible, to enhance our revenues as well.
So if the passenger reaches from the beginning of the airport till the boarding gate faster, you are automatically increasing the capacity of the airport.
Absolutely.
At the same time providing a better experience to the customer because he's not stopped at multiple points.
Correct.
That was the initial genesis.
Yes.
Great, please go on.
Yeah, so I think from that point we started, and then when we started to actually discuss with various biometric OEMs, we found out that the airport passenger processing is a very complex ecosystem, and it was not a simple thing for us to get the integration done to the airline departure control systems and all the other passenger processing systems. So that was, I think, the most difficult part. The biometric was not such a painful thing. But then after working with a few of the biometric OEMs, we were able to get two of them to actually get ready for a pilot trial. And in 2017, January, we actually rolled out a pilot trial with Jet Airways at that time. And we used to do one flight per day. And this was a morning flight during the lean hours, basically around 10 o'clock or so. And I used to walk through various checkpoints with the passenger through the journey. And when boarding used to be announced and boarding gate would be opened, I would actually, after they crossed the boarding gate using DigiYatra, I would take video feedback from them with their consent. And passengers were telling me, why have you got only one processor for this? Why not have it across the airport? Why not have this across the airports in India? And that's when actually we really felt that, this is something which is giving a great deal of convenience to the passenger and also enhancing their experience, right? The stress that is associated with air travel was getting, addressed. And talking about that stress, right? I mean, if you look at the airport checkpoints, all the checkpoints, there is a process owner. So if you look at the airport entry gate, there is the CISF security. And they have a very difficult task to complete, right? And for them, there is a standard operating process which has been laid out, that they have to check the passenger's name, they have to check the passenger's face, they have to check the identity card, they have to check the flight from and to, etc., etc. All these are done manually. And this was something which for them is sacrosanct. They cannot deviate from that. Similarly, at the airline check-in counter, you would find that airline check-in counter, they will still ask your identity card when you're there to drop your bag. And sometimes even at the boarding gate also, you will find that they will ask your identity card. So that inconvenience to the passenger, nobody was thinking, but they, because of their SOPs, they wanted to complete their process. So here was a system or a process which was actually thinking of the pain point of the passenger. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why there is so much of popularity for DigiYatra, because we are actually trying to address a real problem for the user. And that's, I generally keep saying this, that we are successful because we put the customer in the core and center. We are trying to address that customer's need. And not that the other stakeholders are not benefited, because if you look at CISF, from a 15 to 20 second that they would take for processing one passenger at the airport entry gate, now that job is being done in 5 seconds. So for them, there is a lesser burden and pressure. For them also, the stress level certainly reduces. For airline also, the stress levels reduce because they can now focus on actually delivering customer experience rather than doing the mundane stuff of looking at a document, validating it against something, etc., etc. Because the system is taking care of everything with the face as the single token. So everything, your identity card, your travel document, everything gets associated with your face, which is automatically validated by the DigiYatra biometric boarding system.
Excellent. Now, DigiYatra has been implemented in how many airports and what are the volumes like on a daily basis?
So currently, I think we have got 17 airports already live. There are furthermore 12 more airports who are going to be rolled out in the next few weeks, I would say. There are final certification tests which are happening. And once those are completed, they'll also go live. So in all, there would be around 30 airports across India. And these are predominantly the tier 1 and tier 2 airports which will be using the DigiYatra service.
Understood. Great. Now we'll come back to the issues that you faced in implementation across all of these airports. But to understand the tech behind DigiYatra, what are the various technological components, right from your biometric processing systems to what stores your Aadhaar data, what do you do on the back end, all of that. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so interestingly, what happened is when we built this whole ecosystem, it was built on the cloud. So we are a cloud native sort of a ecosystem completely. We are a completely serverless architecture. We do not store any data at all.
Okay.
We only process data. Once we process the data, we put a signature.
Okay.
And that's how you get your credentials. And all the credentials actually are stored in the user's own phone.
Okay.
So from that perspective, one of the aspects of the risk of data theft, loss, leakage, pilferage, all these are already taken care of, because there is nowhere that anyone can hack into our ecosystem and hack into a central database, because there is no central database.
Okay.
So that I think is one of our biggest, I would say, USPs, and that happened because we used something at the cutting edge of technology, or I would say even bleeding edge of technology, which is a concept called as self-sovereign identity.
Okay.
It's a decentralized ecosystem where, or decentralized, or it's also called as a trustless or a zero trust kind of an ecosystem, where everything is on verifiable credentials, and the ecosystem works with proof values to ensure that data is not tampered with, and if it is tampered, then it is evident to anyone who's verifying that particular data.
Just demystifying this a bit, right? From a very user point of view, from the time I've booked a flight, got a boarding pass, etc. How does the data travel? For how long does the airport have my data? Can you just walk us through that?
Yeah. So I'll start with the enrollment itself. So you download the app from the App Store, Play Store, install, and then the first step is you need an OTP. So that's the registration OTP. After that, you need to enter your Aadhaar number to create your identity credential. Aadhaar number can be entered on the DigiLocker or through direct Aadhaar. And once you have done that, you will get an OTP again. This is coming from Aadhaar or DigiLocker. Once you enter that, Aadhaar ecosystem now knows that this is somebody who had that Aadhaar number, and the same OTP has been entered. So that validation check has been done. And then what the user gets on his or her phone is the eKYC data. And the eKYC data is not like with the complete data in the Aadhaar. We get the last 4 digits of the Aadhaar. We get the date of birth, the gender, the name, and the face. These are the 5 key touch points which we get on the phone. And with the face being there, what the app next prompts you to do is give a selfie. And the intent of taking the selfie is that it's the same person whose credentials have been received from Aadhaar.
Okay.
So the eKYC face is taken as a reference, and the selfie face is matched with that. So these 2 faces are sent to our biometric matching engine, and once the match is successful, the credential is created. And when it is created, we put a signature on the credential, which is our address, which is DigiYatra Foundation's address. And then we generate a proof value of that data string.
Okay.
And this proof value works for us to establish that the data has not been tampered with.
Okay.
And maybe I'll explain going forward. So this is what is the credential. And then this is a one-time job that you have to do. And then secondly, whenever you are flying, you book a ticket, and then you got an opportunity to check in 48 hours before. You get your boarding pass. And when you add the boarding pass through either an upload of PDF or upload of image, or maybe scan of the boarding card itself, it reads the QR code. So only the QR code. And it does not read the full document, because the full document has got much more data points. We just read the QR code. The QR code is as per IATA 792, which is the global standard for boarding passes. It has got, it's called the M1 string. The M1 string has got your name, your seat number, your flight from and to, the sequence number, and the date of travel, right? These are the touch points which are there for the boarding pass. With these data points, the app now knows that you are flying from, say, Bangalore to Delhi or wherever, right? So it knows that your validation will happen at Bangalore. Okay. And then it initiates a conversation to Bangalore Airport, which is a certified verifier on the DigiYatra Central ecosystem. So the message goes from the
Sorry, one second. So once it identifies that I am flying from Bangalore to Delhi, DigiYatra Foundation, your central application will start interacting with the Bangalore airport.
No. It's the user's phone, which actually starts the conversation.
Okay.
And there are certified airports. So these 29 airports which I mentioned, these will be the certified airports which can receive passengers' credentials.
Okay.
So first is the conversation goes from the passenger's phone to Bangalore Airport saying, hey Bangalore Airport, I want to send my credentials. Okay. So Bangalore Airport sends back a template saying that I need your boarding pass data, M1 string, and I need your face, right? So that template, once it is received, the user's phone or the DigiYatra app sends the credentials back to Bangalore Airport. So now Bangalore Airport receives the data, and after that the transaction is completed, and then on the day of travel you come to the airport. When you come to the airport, some of the airports have gone to the next avatar, which is no need to scan your boarding pass. But if some airports have got the boarding pass scan, it is basically to fetch your credential, whatever you had shared.
Okay.
And then in that credential, there is a face which you had shared, which is the selfie face, not the Aadhaar face.
Okay.
So that selfie face is matched against your own live face because you are standing in front of the gate. And then once the face is matched, you go through.
You're saying there are some airports where you don't need to even scan your boarding pass? Okay.
So in some airports, they have gone to the next level, which was there in our vision, that when we said walk in the park or seamless experience, we had meant that there will be no document scan required or no document to be shown to anyone. People just walk through all checkpoints. So many airports have now enabled that as well.
Okay.
So you just walk through, and generally what happens there is, since you already shared your credentials, the airport knows that in the next 4 hours window, there are these many flights and these many are the credentials you received.
Okay.
So they populate that gallery. And then what happens is when you reach the gate, your face is captured and matched against that gallery.
Wonderful. This is already operational in some of the airports, you see.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Now, you've talked about a lot of data exchange, right? For people who don't understand technology really well, they always have these concerns about data security, right? What are the various levels of data security that you've ensured? Or you've also said that you don't store too much of data, etc. Can you just tell us about the various checks and balances that are there?
Yep. So we are a lean, mean sort of an ecosystem in that sense, because your risk, if you are having a risk, I mean, if you are storing passengers' data, then you have that risk of somebody trying to hack into your ecosystem and get hold of all the data. So think about this, that we have de-risked everything in such a way that instead of central platform, we are actually storing all these credentials in individuals' phones.
Okay.
So suppose we have got 5+ million users. If somebody wants to hack into 5 million DigiYatra users, then they have to actually hack into 5 million phones. So that's the degree of difficulty, right? And therefore, since we do not store this data, we have de-risked completely, right? The risk of data loss, theft, leakage, pilferage, everything is mitigated already.
Okay.
And the other thing is data, wherever it is processed in transit, it is all encrypted.
Okay.
Even the credentials which are stored in your own phone, these are also encrypted with public-private key pair. And as we speak, we are also trying to enhance this further so that there will be no way that even the shared data to the airport can be misused, even if it falls to any wrong hands.
Okay.
So that is the next level of improvement that we are also working on currently.
And the airport, how long does it store this data? Does it have these credentials?
The airport stores the data for under 24 hours of departure of the flight. So if your flight is departing at 100 hours, by 0959 hours next day, your data will be purged before that. So within 24 hours of departure of the flight, the data gets purged.
Okay.
And what we do from the DigiYatra Foundation is we ensure that there are business rules in the ecosystem at the airport, and these business rules basically are defined to ensure that the data gets purged within the 24 hours. And this audit is generally done by our certain empaneled agencies.
Okay.
And then every time there is a report and a review that happens.
Excellent. The other thing was, while DigiYatra was envisioned for a seamless experience, right? And most of us use it while entering the airport or while getting into the security queue, etc. I think that part is there. It's not yet being used at the boarding gates of airlines. Is there a technical hurdle there?
So it's if you really look at the whole DigiYatra implementation, we are like a year and a half into the journey. And this is a mindset change, right, across stakeholders, from security to airport operator to airlines, to everyone who's working at the airport, enabling the passengers travel. So as we speak, we are currently working with the airlines and the airports to ensure that whatever has been rolled out at airports because at the biometric, at the boarding gate, you will see that there are e-gates which are already
Correct.
placed, and these are operational e-gates. What we are trying to do is find out a way where this whole process works like a song from airport entry gate to the boarding gate, all the touch points. And this is more of a handshake between the airlines, the airport operators, the security agencies. So that's something which we are already addressing as we
So it'll happen soon.
Absolutely.
And what is the architecture so that it scales, this application scales with the increase in number of users? I'm sure you must be having your peaks and troughs.
Correct. So initially when we started, we realized that, actually the popularity of DigiYatra actually was, it was a dramatic increase in popularity, and due to which we started to get more number of passengers. We had not planned for that kind of a growth.
Okay.
And immediately, I think in the first month or so, we faced this problem on the app, which is the application was not scalable. And we had to do a lot of re-engineering.
Okay.
And then we have obviously fixed that aspect. From the infrastructure perspective, we were always scalable because it's all on the cloud and it's on the tap resources which are available. So we have never faced a problem on scaling up on the cloud infrastructure.
Okay.
But the application infrastructure, yes, we did face problems initially, and we have taken care of all that now.
Okay.
And with, I think, today's technology and the technology that we are using, I think we do not foresee any such challenges. The other aspect of this is that, if you really look at the decentralized ecosystem, the transaction is happening between two entities, and it may happen where without actually talking to the central ecosystem, right? And therefore there is not too much of traffic expected or an overload that is possible on the central ecosystem, because once the credential is issued, it's only a simple proof value check and an address check that needs to happen, which is not, from a data perspective, does not require high bandwidths.
Understood.
So that, I think, also helps us to scale very quickly.
We've recently heard about the recent Microsoft outage and the turmoil it created at all airports. Was DigiYatra impacted during that outage?
We were actually not impacted directly, but our ecosystem was working well. People were actually able to share their credentials. All that was happening well. But since the airports were not functioning, we had some issues in people not being able to use the DigiYatra service, because the airport was impacted. The airport processes were down.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that was, for us per se, from an ecosystem perspective, there was no hit at all.
Any other setbacks in DigiYatra? Technologically, technically, application-wise, and any other stuff?
I think I would not say setbacks, but I would say some hurdles, right? And this is a non-tech piece, right? Which is the biggest hurdle that we faced was in the mindset change, especially of people, right? And when we said self-sovereign identity, the understanding of self-sovereign identity was itself, a little bit tricky for people to understand that, okay, without storing our data, how are you able to get me through? How are you able to validate me, etc. So to change that mindset, to explain to them as to how this whole process works in a privacy-preserving manner, I think that was our biggest challenge.
Okay.
And we focused on the tech stack more than any marketing and communications. And this was something which we learned down the line, right? And when we started to face the flag, that's when we realized that, we need to also communicate more and explain about our privacy-preserving ecosystem. So that is something which we started a bit late, but I think now we are on a good wicket. We are, sending various, I would say, information about how self-sovereign identity works, how DigiYatra is privacy-preserving, etc. And as we proceed further, we are also thinking of connecting to every user in their own native language.
Okay.
And the app will have, a multilingual feature where you can select your language of choice, and also an AI chatbot which will help you maneuver through the various, app, I would say, functions. This would be voice, video, text completely, and hopefully, I think that it should, also help enhance the usage.
Interesting updates you are telling. One is about the language, which we conveniently forget all the time.
Yeah.
We assume that everybody who flies through understands English. I remember you being a big advocate saying that there are a lot of first-time flyers, right, who necessarily don't understand English, etc. So this is coming out as another feature.
Absolutely. So in the next 3 to 6 months, I would say 3 months, we should be able to roll this feature out. So I'll give you an interesting story, right? So there's this person, and he put up a video on YouTube, and he said, he was actually, he asked one of his friends to shoot this video with him, and he was in chappal and gamcha. And he said that chappal or gamche mein maharaja ki sawari. And he was just walking through the checkpoints, right? This person behind him was just shooting the video, and this guy walking through the DigiYatra touch points, reaching all the way to the boarding gate. And he said, chappal or gamche mein maharaja ki sawari. So that is the service that we want to offer to everyone. And language becomes one of the key aspects, right? If we are able to connect with everyone in their own native language, then I think we are able to hopefully scale up, in a much bigger way.
Tell us something about the chatbot. I know you mentioned it in passing in our conversation earlier that you're using an LLM in order to rapidly, put up a chatbot on DigiYatra application. Can you tell us more about it? What is it that you're using?
So I think AI is going to be a game changer in very many fields, right? And I felt that the kind of questions that we keep getting from various users, all that actually to answer them, right? I mean, we do not need to have a huge sort of a manpower addressing all those queries. Instead, our ecosystem is already, the information on our ecosystem is already known to us. We have built all that deck. And based on that information, the AI is able to actually decipher any query and then send out the right information. So that's something which we feel is going to again change the way people interact with our app also. Okay. We were thinking of an avatar, but maybe that would be a next step. Avatar which will actually come and help you out through the app, but maybe next step. But this chatbot text, voice, video based one is something which will happen very soon.
Okay, and this is based on some LLMs?
Yes, we are currently prototyping, so we'll figure out something.
Okay. Understood. As you said, it's more about the mindset change that you faced. I mean, a lot of even B2C applications that some of our entrepreneurs launch, it's not necessarily that the best product always wins, but it's the product and you need to manage a lot of stakeholders. So for an implementation like DigiYatra, you had to work with the government, you had to work with airports, airlines, the Aadhaar authority, etc., and also consumers. Can you talk us about the change that you had to make, the entire change management that you followed to get it into implementation, right? And maybe some snippets of what convinced certain stakeholders.
So first and foremost, right? I mean, we were actually addressing a genuine problem, and this was prevalent across airports in India. And there is a customer, there is an air traveler who's always stressed going through the airport processes. Right. And this is like you as a frequent flyer know it already, right? The moment there is a travel, you need to prepare. Correct. So well, and that itself brings in a lot of pressure. And then various checkpoints at the airport where you need to guard your documents. If you lose your boarding pass, then it's a challenge, etc., right? So many things which are, if you lose, many times I've heard from my friends, that they forgot their identity card somewhere, misplaced it, etc. So all this pressure, right, was something which the passenger was facing. Airports obviously were dealing with this growth in passenger traffic. They were struggling to maintain their airport service quality, for example. And social media is a powerful thing. And today, if there is, say, during the last peak season, when I think this was during Independence Day, right? And there was huge traffic, long queues at many airports in India. And this was already in the social media, right? And people don't want that kind of a bad publicity. So that was a problem which the airports face. Security obviously faces most of the brunt because passengers are not happy. Although security are doing a very noble function, right? They want to safeguard your travel. But still they are also seen in a different way. And all these, and including airlines, right? Airlines were also, like for airlines, the challenge is that, they need to ensure that same person goes and boards the flight, right? Identity validation. And they keep also inconveniencing the passenger at the boarding gate, at the check-in counter, etc. So all these were having, all these stakeholders were having their own set of problems. The passenger was the one who was actually bearing this whole problem. And we picked this problem, and because it was addressing all stakeholders, right, with the customer in the core and center, I think it clicked well because there was a user who was impacted, and we were delivering like a superlative experience. And that's the reason I would say that, DigiYatra is a hit, because it's addressing all stakeholders' problems: airports, efficiency problem, customer experience problem, security, enhancing security, and customer experience of obviously becoming really fantastic.
Excellent. Now, you used to mention it, and I've read some of your interviews also. You say that this is the UPI moment for travel, and this is DigiYatra can be the travel stack for India. Can you explain more about that? What you mean by that travel stack for India?
So your identity validation during your travel. So when I say travel, not just the air travel, right? Do you travel to say Bangalore to Delhi, and then once you land at Delhi, maybe you check into a hotel. After you're checked into a hotel, maybe you're on a family vacation and you're going to see the Taj Mahal, for example. And if you look at these various touch points, there are many places where your identity validation is required, right from the airport. So airport anyway we have solved. But the moment you try to check into the hotel, they'll first ask you, give me your booking details, and then after that they'll say, give me your identity card. And invariably you will fish out your Aadhaar card, either a physical copy, or if you're a tech guy, tech savvy guy, you will open the DigiLocker app and show the Aadhaar. And what would they do? They will take a photo of that, or they will take a photocopy of that document.
Correct.
And this is all unencrypted, identity data. And also a painful process, right? And so this is something which can be...
is that risky? Because I give my Aadhaar card at every hotel that I check into.
So think about it in this way. So the hotel obviously will have their own security best of practices, right? But then unencrypted identity information and information relating to you is being stored somewhere. And it could fall into wrong hands, right? And that is something which is a risk which nobody can avoid. So why to have such a process, which is first of all inefficient and totally, from a privacy perspective, it is like keeping out your data in the open. So hotel check-in is something where we feel that, within seconds your identity can get validated, right? And then say you decided to go to the Taj Mahal, and then you are at the Taj Mahal, there also identity validation is required. One form of identity has to be shown. So why does it have to be this laborious process of you safeguarding first of all that identity document and then showing it, and then why it has to be that way? Why not the privacy preserving way of DigiYatra? And this is where we felt that DigiYatra will have a very good, I would say, impact. And I believe it will have a socio-economic impact as well, because the complete end-to-end travel, if it becomes seamless, right, then obviously there are many people who perhaps are tourists to India, and then when they go back with the experience that they have been through, obviously it is something which will enhance tourism in India, for example. So I think we have a good potential.
You're saying DigiYatra can be extended to even foreign nationals?
Absolutely.
Okay. How will that work? How would you check their identity?
So we already are prototype testing our electronic passport based enrollment.
Okay.
So anyone with an electronic passport can actually enroll without us talking to any database, can immediately enroll using the electronic passport. We do the same thing, which is electronic passport also has a face. We read the face. So first is the MRZ, machine readable zone, where we read the first page, the machine readable zone. And then the NFC chip can be read by the phone, and then a selfie. And the identity credential gets created using electronic passport.
Okay.
So that's something which, not just for identity validation, it could also be used for border control. So which is something which we have already started to work with the Ministry of External Affairs.
Okay.
We just begun the initial discussions.
Okay.
and I think we have a good opportunity to create this global impact, right?
So when you started DigiYatra, I remember, I mean, for testing out some of these biometric processing systems, you traveled to Portugal, all those places. There, an equivalent to DigiYatra is already in place, or they've implemented only in bits and pieces?
A good question, right? So it's, I would say, implemented, but only at a particular checkpoint. So, for example, border crossing, any European airport, if you'll go, you will find that EU citizens have got a different border crossing gate, which is an automated gate. So their passport goes in, and then a face match happens because the passport already has an electronic chip which has got your face.
Okay.
So they go through that process. But nowhere has it been an end-to-end thing. And everywhere it has been like, you need to still have that passport in your hand, right? And I'm sure that, going forward, there will be a time when you don't have to even carry your passport. Everything will be, electronic, and you may not have to, and phone is what you will have always.
And these applications beyond the airport in India, that is whether it is at hotels or for tourism or for even train travel, etc., has that already started? Some prototyping has started for that?
So we have done our internal testing, but we have not yet begun. I think there would be a number of sort of regulatory approvals that we'll also have to take. So we'll have to start working with those ministries as well. So that's something which we will be starting very soon.
Now, coming to the application, I mean, the talent behind the entire DigiYatra. Can you talk us about what your team size is and what are the various expertise that people have within your team? And I'm sure there are people outside DigiYatra Foundation, your extended arm in terms of your vendors or your technology partners. Can you talk us about that?
So we are a very lean, mean, very small team, right? And since our ecosystem is on the cloud, so obviously we need to have the cloud expertise. So we have a DevOps person, and we generally use Python for various Lambda functions. So Python is another language which we predominantly use. We are not too much on databases because the database that we use is the one which is on the phone, the SQLite database. We have got people who are really experts on our Hyperledger. So we use Hyperledger Aries. So that's something which is the core backbone of our ecosystem. So Hyperledger is one skill set which we certainly
Can you
require.
tell us more about that, the Hyperledger?
So Hyperledger Foundation is a subsidiary of Linux Foundation. And they have actually given out this open source ecosystem for everyone to basically use self-sovereign identity based credentials, and for various applications, right? Not just identity. So that's the ecosystem that we use. It's all open source. And our app basically is we need React. We are on React Native, so React Native is another skill set that we use.
And any technology partners that you have? I mean, we don't need to name them, but what are the kind of technology expertise that they bring to the table?
So partners per se today we do not have anyone. We basically have a team which is on the DigiYatra Foundation payrolls, and then we have an extended team through some of our partners for some of the skill sets that are required for either augmenting our app or maintaining and operating. So that's how it is. We are very soon also going to enhance our team, and we will be like maybe under 20 people still.
Okay. That's a pretty small team for such a large use case.
Yeah. I think I have, so one of the things that I have done while selecting my team is selecting them on the basis of skills is something which is a given, right? You would find the skill sets which are required. But what drives our team is the passion. And all the team members that we have in DigiYatra Foundation, I have selected on the basis of the passion that I have seen in them. Right? I think with that my problem is solved because I don't need to micromanage or monitor anything. They are driven by their own passion towards this initiative. And that has worked well for me. So, and I hope to continue in the same vein.
And I've heard that is work from anywhere team, right? They distributed across.
So we are a completely work from anywhere team. And We are spread across various cities in India,
Okay.
and that's how hopefully we'll be.
That's great. And you've seen, I remember as a part of when you were leading Bangalore Airport Innovation Lab, you interacted with a lot of startups, many of them from Bangalore, right? And all of them wanted to work with the Bangalore airport in one way or the other in multiple use cases. And what is it? And there are some startups that really work well for you, and there's some startups that didn't. Um, can you just think back and say, what are the traits that those startups should have, or what is the thing that they should follow in order to work with such large organizations like BIAL or DigiYatra or any other large enterprise?
I think even before you think of working with some organization, right? I think finding a use case is more important.
Okay.
What is that problem that you are trying to solve?
Okay.
And if you'd have seen any of the successful ventures out there, right? You would have seen that they have solved one problem which everyone faces, or majority of them face. For example, during the pandemic, the likes of Swiggy and others, right? They thrived because they were actually solving one big problem for everyone. Similarly, we have a passenger experience problem that we are solving. And unless and until you find a real problem that the industry is facing or the users are facing, yeah, I mean, it will be difficult for you to. Then it will be more about how you sell, right? But here, if it is a real problem that you are trying to solve, I think you already will establish your market.
Okay. One is finding a real problem to solve. Okay. Second, about the talent, right? I'm sure you must be interacting with a lot of young talent wanting to get into software development, software engineering. I know your son is going to get into graduation soon, right? What do these people need to learn to thrive in the new world where technology plays such an important role, right? They need to build a lot of applications and all of that stuff. What should they learn, because technology is changing so fast?
So I'll give an example on the basis of the team that we have, right? How we function, right? So there is a person who is like really creative, but just being creative does not help.
Okay.
There is a person who's like a stickler for perfection. He wants everything to be mapped in a proper, systematic, methodical way. Without him, we cannot work, right? And there are these kind of traits which are very important. There is one person who's always thinking about, no, this will perhaps, get us into some sort of an issue from a, what do we say, compliance perspective, etc. So unless and until this mix is there, you wouldn't get a complete sort of a solution. So I think maybe you don't need to have all of the traits together, but for a team to work together, I think this is something which is important. And for a person, I would say, for me, it is simply the passion that what you like to do. I think if you choose that, then I think that is something which will help you, grow in the industry or as a professional.
Excellent. And you've had a tech career even before Bangalore Airport. You've been in a tech career. You've had a lot of tech colleagues. You've got a lot of tech colleagues into Bangalore Innovation Center and all of that stuff. All of them have had quite long careers, right? Whether it is Arun or others. In these days, it's very rare to see people having long tech careers. Maybe what are the lessons to be learned? How do you keep yourself abreast of what's changing, etc.?
So new technology is something which we need to first understand it, right?
Okay.
So what I have actually myself been doing is, of course, these days I have not been able to do that much because of the work pressure. But generally what I try to do is the upcoming technologies, right? I want to know what they are. So I start off with, and there are these multiple MOOC, platforms available where I update myself with various technology, and that I think is a continual thing. And today I think it's AI, right? People used to say mobile first, cloud first. Now it is AI first. You have to choose AI, otherwise you will be, of course, out of the race. And that I think is something which I continue to do.
Suresh, thanks a lot for your time. That was really, really insightful about how DigiYatra benefits passengers, airports, and airlines. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Krishna. So I'd just like to say that DigiYatra sort of intends to provide business class experience to the common man. So that is our motto.
Oh, that's the tagline, business class experience to the common man.
And the other tagline that we are going ahead with is saying that don't know your customer, but know their needs. So we do not know our customers per se, but we know what they need.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh. So that's a wrap on DigiYatra in and around tech. So what did we learn, right? Large-scale initiatives like this succeed when you keep the main consumer's interests at the center and work with the stakeholders all around them, be it airports, airlines, government agencies, etc. And Suresh also told us that the team is very small. Its team is less than 20. That's unbelievable, right? DigiYatra, which actually impacts millions of passengers across India, works with a tech team of less than 20 people. And even after doing so much, Suresh believes that the only way to keep abreast of what's happening is to upskill oneself through all the online channels that one has. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and request you to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.